I said, a little working under duress here, so bear with me if I'm a little slow on the draw. Thanks for joining. Today is a special meeting of the CCG Community Connectivity Team for the Soundview Gateway. It's being recorded on WebEx for the town of Old Lyme. And with us right now, we have Eric Olson on the committee, Frank Pappalardo of the committee, Jim Lampos of the committee, First Selectman Griswold, and Kurt Petrarina and myself. So the only one missing is Bonnie, and at this point, there are no public present. I'm just gonna put a call out in case I can't see him. Is there anybody from the public here? Okay. So we had a lot going on since we last met in March, earlier March. We've had our bid opening, which followed the pre-bid meeting down at Soundview. We had 5 firms come to the bid opening on March 16th, 4 of whom were present. We had somebody join us that wasn't a bidder, but sort of a subcontractor. He sat in. Then BSC began the evaluation of the 5 bids. And by Friday, March 19th, we determined that of the 3 low bidders, one of them was not DOT pre-qualified as required. And so BSC then evaluated the other firms and determined that the apparent low bidder was Martin. I'm going to say that wrong. Martin
Lavero.
They were notified by phone like 6 p.m. on Friday, and they agreed to join us for a scope review, which was held Monday, yesterday, the 22nd, to make sure that their bid carried everything. And I thought the meeting went very well. And I also want to thank Michelle Noren for helping me at the bid opening. I really appreciated her help. So that's sort of the update. Following that meeting, Selectman Griswold received the information from BSC, which is required to notify DOT of our recommendation and the reasons for selecting Martin Lavero as opposed to Costa & Sons, which was the low bidder but wasn't pre-qualified. He received all that information. I know he's been working on that today, and we'll talk about it. Once we've got 2 weeks to get all the documents in, paperwork, insurance signed, while the DOT is hopefully going to give us their okay. I did let Craig Babowitz know by phone and by email that we would be sending this information in to him. He did email me back today saying he'll be looking for Tim's email. So that's all I had on the update. And if there isn't any questions, I'll turn it over to Kurt. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay. Kurt, would you like to go from there? And then we'll let Tim, Tim wants to talk to us about what to send the DOT.
Absolutely. What I'll do is I'll just give a quick update on some of the key dates. That's what we're kind of looking at right now. So as Mary Jo mentioned on yesterday, I was going to say Monday, yesterday we had our scope review, and I think everybody was convinced that the contractor has carried everything in his bid. So at this point, collectively, we're satisfied that there are no gaps, so we can move on in the process. That was a key step in the process. So really the next key date is going to be April 5th. That was the proposed start date that we had all talked about. So really, we're in a critical 2-week window that Tim is basically leading the charge on finalizing what are essentially the contracting items. We have a construction kickoff meeting scheduled for Thursday, April 1st at 9 o'clock at the town hall. And then if we need to, we will do a site visit with the contractors just to look at some logistical things. As an example, they had asked about lay down area, storage area. So if we need to, we can physically go down to the project site, Hartford Avenue or Route 156 to look at those areas. So that'll be certainly a big milestone. And again, just to reiterate, once they start work on April 5th, our contract calls for substantial completion by May 28th. So a pretty quick turnaround. And we call for final completion and acceptance no later than June 30th. He did bring up one issue related to some supply limitations because of COVID, and that was in particular to the vinyl fence that we're putting at, is it 27?
Correct.
Hartford Avenue. But that's okay. That's kind of a minor thing. We talked about the fact that we can certainly work out the details of that. If he needs to remobilize and install the fence because he can't get the fence, we'll work it out logistically. The other work can be completed. He seemed to indicate that he could have a crew come back and install the fence in a surgical manner, if you will, meaning he could still do the rest of the work required. They would just come back and drop the fence in. So that was really the only thing that was any sort of a glitch, if you will. Other than that, everything seemed pretty straightforward. I was certainly satisfied. So that's my update. It's exciting. We're moving forward.
So, Kurt, I have a question for you. I, as probably everyone else in the committee, is obviously quite surprised that the bid came in, $260 for everything. I'm just curious, in your estimating, we were thinking it was going to be well over the grant limit. Was it the prevailing wage that brought it down so low, or should we be concerned, that all that's getting done for a lot less than we thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I was actually also surprised, Eric, very pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless. Actually, the prevailing wages tend to bring the cost up. It's interesting. Every once in a while, we will get a bid that surprises us. Sometimes we get bids that surprise us in the wrong direction. Sometimes, as in this case, we get bids that are pleasant surprises. There could be a number of things going on. It's always hard to tell, but number one, you guys went out to bid at a really good time of year. So contractors are trying to line up their work for the season. Another possibility is that depending on their specific workload, and I've been thinking a little bit about this too, it could be that this is such a quick project. They might have considered that this was good, very early work that they could come in, get it done very quickly to sort of kick off their season. So I don't want to say they consider it filler work, but as he did mention on the phone, this project is a bit on the smaller side of what they normally do. Clearly, they're a competent contractor. Their references have checked out very well. So really hard to tell, what goes on as far as their businesses, but yeah, I think it's wonderful that we did so well. We're going to get all 5 of the alternates, and then the committee can contemplate if there are other things that fit within the profile for grant funding that potentially could be added to the project at this point.
All right, thanks.
So, Kurt, this is Frank, Kurt. To follow up on that additional work that fits within the project, the bus transportation center is what I would think would fit within the project, and also the gateway sign. how would we go about moving forward with either one or both of those items?
My recommendation would be that we first have a discussion with Craig Babowitz to talk about the eligibility of those elements. If he says, yes, that sounds reasonable, then my recommendation would be to kind of circle back. The sign is pretty easy in that regard, but circle back in particular with the bus shelter, a little more complex, to talk about, well, what might we want that to be? I know we've talked about various ideas. Jim, I think you had some sketches you had shared at one time, but just to kind of understand, okay, here's our budget. We kind of know how much money you have available, to start talking about the programming of what would you want that to look like? What would you want it to consist of? And that would definitely be informed by what Craig would indicate would be eligible. So as an example, I think we had talked about a gravel road or something going across.
Yeah,
okay, fine.
Which has already been put in, by the way.
Okay. So I'd be
So
interested to ask Craig. Yeah, go ahead, Frank. Yep, go ahead.
It would probably, the bus shelter would be provided by the bus district. So they already stated that they would provide that. So basically, it would be some upgrade to the gravel road and some landscaping and niceties and some ADA accessibility. I would think. Make it look nice, make it look pretty. I think that Jim had mentioned it way back in the beginning. He didn't want to do it part way. He wanted to do all of it. Make it look good from the beginning rather than half baked. And I agree.
Yep.
So we have the road was put in already by the water company contractor. So that portion is actually there. It's been boxed out and graveled. So the rest of it I think is just making it look nice and adjusting it for ADA and DOT requirements.
Yep. So I think it would start with a conversation with Craig, kind of based on the general items you outlined. Step A, step B, circle back with the committee, scope it out, come up with something definitive. Step C would be the actual design of it. ADA is certainly a critical element. So you'd probably need some land survey, because you don't have good solid topographic data in there. Not a lot, but as you know, ADA, an eighth of an inch makes a difference. So it's critical to have good data. Sure. And then it would be the way that would get implemented into the project. Once the contractor is on board and fully under contract, you would be able to request a price proposal from him. So he would price it out for you. You would review it, and then if you felt that it was okay, this makes sense, my recommendation would be that we run it by Craig again, and we could find out what kind of review process he may need. If all was agreed upon and approved, you would execute a change order with the contractor, and essentially in doing so, that would then get incorporated into the project.
All right, so we wouldn't have to go through all the contractual types of things and bidding and so on and so forth. It'd be a change order to the existing contract. Yep. Okay,
that's correct.
That does make things a lot cleaner.
Would they want a paved road for a bus stop, do you think, Kurt, or gravel would suffice?
My recommendation would be, two things. Number one, we have to make sure we have ADA access, whereas that may not relate directly to the road. We just want to make sure that we have paved parking spots and a paved accessible route, which is the code term, to the shelter and the location where the bus pulls up. As far as the way the bus comes in, my recommendation would be to contact Town Transit to find out what they may want.
Well, most of the bus shelters do not have associated parking. Do you think we would have to do that? Because that would be a little more scope than we had contemplated.
Yeah. typically for a public facility, you need to provide handicapped access. So in other words, if somebody wanted to park there and then take the bus, we have to provide them with the appropriate accommodations. We could certainly run that by your local building official. Ultimately, he's the authority on that. And we could run it by Nine-Town Transit
Yeah,
and find out, they may have standards. For example, we design bus shelters for Greater Bridgeport Transit, and they have certain standards that they apply for uniformity to all of their bus shelters. So those are easy enough pieces of information to get, I think.
Okay.
well,
So
it might be a
we
stretch
should
to-
get.
Go ahead.
We should kind of get to phase one here, get the contractor on board and start the construction, and then move forward to the next thing. I would think would be probably the logical thing. In the meanwhile, we could check with DOT just to see whether those two items are acceptable, and then take it from there.
Well, Frank, you've only got 2 months here, so we can't fool around too long, because if it's going to take a month for somebody to decide, the contractor will be heading for the door.
Right. So maybe we ought to check with Craig Babowitz right away, very soon, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I can ask Joe Comerford over at Nine-Town Transit whether we are obliged to have parking associated with it, because I think there are a number of these things that don't have parking.
Yeah, I think the
I don't
issue
believe-
is because we're using state money, you'll have to find out
Yeah,
what the state says.
May only have to put in 2 parking spaces for ADA, and the rest of it could be remain grass. So it may just be a very small small ADA accessibility thing.
That's
so-
correct. It could potentially be
Yeah.
a single space. We could
Yeah.
find out. But yeah, you're certainly not talking about, 15 parking spaces. This would literally be 1 or 2 handicap spots, maybe a van spot, and then what we call a standard vehicle spot. That's it.
Well,
Very
might I
limited.
suggest
Okay.
that once we get our contractor qualified, by the DOT allows us to move forward, hopefully this week, and then I'll take up the issue with the state. Might I suggest that we have a meeting at that location to look at it and to see what we think would be best also? Because I
I'm going to have
haven't
to go
seen it.
on. I'm going to go on mute now, so I'll have to listen for a bit. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. How does that sound? If we maybe have a meeting out there, kind of walk it and talk about it, if we find that we can use the revenue for this.
Yeah, certainly.
I'll call Comerford this week, just get his read on the parking situation anyway, and confirm that he would still be willing to give us the shelter itself.
Okay,
Joe, might I suggest on April 1, when we have our construction kickoff, might be a
Good
great
idea.
time to do that walk.
good idea. Good idea. I would also like to throw a request in for the bike repair station that we talked about for about 5 years. Also, they're about $2,000, and it would make sense to put it there also. But Jim is right. It needs to be attractive. It needs to be something that people would want to get off, and go down to Hartford Avenue. It shouldn't just be a bus station. It should look nice. So I think having a look and maybe on our own time individually before April 1st, we'll come with some ideas at the meeting too.
Well, I think we also, there's a couple things. One, we could do a scaled down version of the bus stop now that the sidewalk is going in. The sidewalk, I guess, will go in all the way down to the police station. So I think if we put the shelter right there at the sidewalk, it won't be much of a production. That's pretty typical, we may be able to get away from the whole parking. It will be ADA accessible because that's what the sidewalk is. And then right next to it, maybe, you know, the bike repair station, which would just need a concrete pad. So that's a way of getting, you know, out pretty inexpensively, since we're getting a sidewalk and, you know, some nice landscaping, perhaps. If Craig Babwood says no, maybe we would consider concrete curbs instead of the bituminous on Hartford, or I don't know how the committee would feel about looking back at the stamped concrete, you know, to make it match Lower Hartford Avenue, whether that's worth it.
Well, I
Good
think
idea.
that would be back online there. I think that would be a considerable change order myself. But let's see what Craig has to say.
Right. I agree that, you know, if we can get the transportation center, that'd be great. You know, I'm just thinking, what if we don't?
Yeah, and nice signage that we wanted.
Right.
Yes, definitely.
Yep.
Landscaping, signage, really make it look attractive. I think we have an opportunity here that we should really seize upon.
I do too. Great. All right. So since we're rolling in it, any other questions with about the extra dough?
I figure it's going to be about 84,000 available beyond the contract price, the BSC fee, and the contingency of 40,000.
Well, that should be a lot of landscaping. So
I'll say. Well, that area sure could use it. It's pretty ugly.
yeah,
So.
yeah, definitely. I think for the
Okay.
fact that the road is actually already in is really helpful from our standpoint. It's already been boxed in and it's already existing.
Well, let's hope that we get good word from DOT then. We'll go from there. Thank you for bringing that up, Frank and Jim. Anything else on that? Okay. Okay. I appreciated Eric's question on the bid. I think we all were wondering how lucky can we be? Actually, the good news is 3 out of the 5 bidders were under the grant cost. So that gave me some comfort level. It'd be different if it was just 1 out of the 5, but there were 3. So that helped me feel a little bit more comfortable with it. Dan yesterday felt that Shore Road was pretty straightforward, and Kurt reminded him about the few obstacles, some of the vegetation that would have to be either removed by the contractor or people that planted it on the state right of way. Also, some of the signage that would have to be removed at Anley's, the old Pizza Plus, and then Dimitri's. Those are the 2 other signs, I believe, that we were concerned with. And then we had an issue about the houses, the driveways at Cottage Lane that came up. And I'm sorry, my computer went down, so I really can't pull my old minutes, but during the conversation, Kurt reminded us that the DOT approved 2 driveway cuts from 156. Am I saying that right, Kurt? 2 into that property?
It's
Off of 156?
yeah, but each one goes to the separate property. One goes to 2. I want to get this number right because it's a bit of a interesting. Bear with me. I'm just looking at my sheet here. I don't want to give you the wrong address. 272 is the one that's at the corner of Cottage. They're getting a driveway cut. And then 274 which is next door to that property, is getting a driveway cut.
Right. Right. And I had forgotten, I had thought that we had put a driveway cut on Cottage, and that we had thought, well, we can just leave it, but apparently that was not part of the revised plan. So that came up. Someone have something to say? Anyway, so the discussion yesterday was, we could talk about that today. Do we just leave it? Or do we include that additional parking spot, which Kurt reminded us may not be town standard?
Well, this is Frank. My only concern is that driveway cut on the house that's adjacent to Cottage. Is there enough room? Is there enough private property for them to actually drive in and make a turnaround in front of that house? I didn't think there was enough private property for that to occur, and that's why we decided we would do a driveway cut on Cottage. I don't recall what the actual amount of private property was there.
Yeah, I mean, technically there is sufficient private property. Our work has to stop at the right of way, and then the homeowner
Right.
would be responsible for doing, you know, but they could create a turnaround and parking areas, but that would be up to them.
Okay, but there's enough room for that. That's all. I was just wanting to make sure that we
Yes.
we left them enough room to do that. Okay.
Okay, thank you for, I'm glad that came up, and thank you for reminding us. Were there any other issues on Shore Road, Kurt, that you wanted to share with the committee?
The only thing that I had mentioned, and this might be communications from the committee, is that we do have some existing vegetation
Mhm.
that's inside of the DOT right of way that
Mhm.
if the committee wanted to, they could notify property owners of the pending start of construction, and give them the opportunity, if they wanted to move that vegetation, similar to the shrubs on Hartford Avenue.
Yep.
Well, I think by all means we need to notify those, you know, Annealy's and Dimitri and everything that their signs are coming down. And I don't think we've done that in a formal method yet. So I think we definitely need to do that. And we could do the Nickerson, I think, is the only property that has vegetation that he was concerned about. So should do that at the same time.
Yeah, every homeowner and business owner got a letter back in the fall with the scope of work. So, but they haven't gotten anything since then.
So
maybe
Mary Jo,
we should. Go ahead.
Eric?
Sorry.
yeah, just so the businesses then were in those letters, just to remind me, they were notified that, like Dimitri, for instance, he was notified the scope of work that was happening on his property.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, yep. Everybody in the project area got a letter.
Yeah, Dimitri is the only one I didn't get to speak to personally.
Okay.
It'd be very important to remind them, because April 5th is not far away for our Hartford Avenue friends, and between Awa and you know, some of those people, we better make sure we remind them again.
Well, Dr. Awa got a letter. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think a formal letter is good. I think we should, you know, generate that, you know, sooner rather than later. I don't have a problem. I'll try to stop up and see Dimitri this weekend.
Get my computer back. If I get my computer back, go ahead, Eric.
I was just wondering, can we send the same letter that we sent in October?
Yeah, I was going to say, if I get my computer back up, I will, I can, update the letter with, our current date and any updated information, and we can send that out. If I can't, we're gonna have to reinvent the wheel a little.
Well, we
Okay.
probably have to say that the town will have to remove the impediments if they do not, plain and simple, because it's right around the corner.
Well, as you know,
Oh, we
Tim,
already
on
said,
March
we already said that in
16th,
the first,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
We already
March
said that in the
16th,
first letter, yeah.
we did. And they got the TRAs, it was all in there, and Dr. Awa got the letter you signed on March 16th, reminding him that he agreed to do that. If not, the contractor would move the fences and put them neatly by his house. As for the shrubbery, I would rather see Public Works trim it than the contractor. I don't know what you think about that, Tim.
So that's fine. We actually have some public works people who have gone to arborist training and so forth, so they're not going to butcher it, but it's going to get butchered no matter what, because it's grown out probably 18 inches into the right of way, so more maybe.
Yeah, nice part of it's privet. It's a privet, so it'll recover.
Yeah, I went and looked at it yesterday. I mean, it's a perfect time to cut it back because you can really see what needs to be cut back before it leaves out. So
Yeah.
it'd be a good time for them to do that. It was kind of hard to get a hold of him in person, but I tried a gazillion numbers and one actually worked. I can try and call him again too and remind him, but he did get that letter on the 16th, so.
Should we get the vegetation on Hartford Avenue taken care of before the 5th of April?
Well, the letter I think you signed said by April 1st, I believe. We gave him till April 1st.
Which direction will the contractor start? From the south to north or the other way around? You know?
He didn't say.
Didn't
Yeah,
come up yesterday.
unknown.
He did say in our correspondence with the homeowners, it might be worth telling them that they're going to be doing multiple properties at once.
Right, but I mean, if he's starting at the south end, we'll have to deal with, that's where most of the problems are on Hartford Ave. So we'll have to jump on it. We won't have a luxury of time.
I don't think
Yeah,
we've been
speaking of
sitting
that,
on our
Tim.
duffs on this. I think we've been trying to work
Yeah.
on this. The fences will be easy to take down. The shrub we can talk with Public Works to trim them back if we can't get a hold of Dr. Awa. The fence on Port Alliance, you're going to have to address the committee on that one. And then the only other issue is our friends, the butchers, and there's a letter that's being reviewed between our town attorney and Kurt that should go out this week to them.
I should have that done tomorrow and back to him.
Well, Mary Jo, if you can't get the letters up and you need help, drafting some letters and getting, just let me know. I'll be willing to help out so we can get those out.
Thank you, Eric.
Prior to the
Thank you.
5th.
Yeah, timing was bad to have the blue screen of death today. Yeah.
We should talk about Port Alliance a little bit, right? If it's appropriate at this point in time.
Okay with me.
Yeah, Tim, we at the last meeting voted unanimously to not allow an additional driveway cut there. It sets up a bad precedence. It also shows other people on that side of the street that, there's special treatment being dealt with for special people. And it doesn't fit with what we did on the southern part of Hartford Avenue, where people wanted new driveway cuts and we refused them because of safety reasons. this is a similar situation. It's a safety reason, people backing out into a not being able to fit into the space properly over the sidewalk. And there's very little room on the side of the house between that house and the property line. I can't see how they're going to fit a car in there, you know, properly. The driveway is going to be right on the property line and right on the house line. So we voted at the last meeting that that we should not allow any additional changes or modifications in the plan for new driveway cuts for those reasons. I think I articulated all the reasons. I may not have, but precedence, special treatment for special people, and we've already said to other people that they can't have it.
So I did drive by their house today, this afternoon, and on that side of the house, like Frank said, there's less than probably 10 feet to the property line. They also have 2 outside air conditioning units on that side, plus their Bilco door into their basement. So for them to park a car, it's going to be literally to the sidewalk. So, you know, even if they wanted to pay for it, like Tim said, it's a safety issue. And I don't know how the building department or land use said it would be okay to do it. There's no room for them to park a car over there. Is that what they're, you know, did they want to get to the back of their property, Tim?
No.
I think another parking space.
Yeah, I don't know whether they have, they used to park them in the driveway, but I guess he just thought that having an extra space for when a couple of these folks show up, we'll tell them and say, you can still put the fence behind the property line, or you can proceed with the agreement that was fabricated. So we'll just say that's it.
Okay.
Think you can do that this week?
I'll tell him. You know, he might. I don't know what he can do. He can just leave the fence, I guess. But I guess we would say we need to have the agreement, or if you want to continue to move it without a gate and no more, you know, no access to the south side of the house, that's okay too.
But we're not going to put in another driveway cut for them.
No, you could either put the fence behind the line or sign the agreement.
Yeah.
How many agreements have they had? Because I haven't seen any of them. Which one are we talking about?
The one where we would acknowledge it's over the line, and if he sells or transfers the house, he'd have to move the fence at that time behind the line. It wasn't an ongoing easement. It would be a specific time frame for their use. So, you know, they're somewhat elderly. So if they just transferred the property, that they'd have to move the fence. He then said, I'll move it, but I'd like to have this gate. And so we'll say, well, you can either move it or you can sign the agreement. So we'll find out. I'll just tell him that's the deal. And if he has a contrary opinion, we'll say there's not too many options, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's got two choices. Have we generated the letter to the butchers yet to tell them we're going to be doing what needs to be done?
Yeah, it's being reviewed. The town attorney generated it.
Okay.
And it's being reviewed. He wanted some feedback from Kurt, and then I wanted to share it with Tim, obviously, and I'll copy the committee. The law firm had some issues, though. They weren't being able to get back to our requests by email, but it sounds like slowly and surely they're getting back to normal. So hopefully this week it'll be, Kurt had said he'll have his part done by tomorrow, and then we can send it out to everybody.
Okay.
But basically, the letter says what I mentioned in the meeting yesterday is like, you know, you've had repeated efforts to sign a temporary rights agreement. You've chosen not to. We're disappointed, but under state statute, we can do this. And we feel we must do it to safely allow you access to your driveway. We hope that you'll sign the TRA in the meantime. That's a summary of the letter.
Mary Jo, I did find the diagram that we had presented to DOT and then subsequently passed around for 272 Shore Road. Would it be helpful if I showed it? I'm not sure. Well, it
Sure.
may, very simple, but just so,
Sure. Thank you. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi,
Hi,
Bonnie.
sorry I'm late.
Thanks
so
for
this
coming.
is what we had, and this was, I can't remember what, we had sent this out on October 21st after we got DOT approval, but I can't remember what meeting we had talked about, but
Yeah.
this in red was the new driveway we had talked about. Frank, I'm sorry you can't see this, but as you can see, there is plenty of room for vehicles in here. If you look at the size of, you know, these are 2 trash cans of vehicles, probably 3 times the size of these. Well, here's the car right there. There's a good example. So you can see there's a fair amount of room right here to be able to maneuver around. This became a concern here because of your catch basin, because of the proximity to 156 and the movement of vehicles that I had spent some time down there kind of just watching vehicles move in and out. This was a potential conflict here. And that's why I felt this was a much safer solution after talking to DOT. They concurred as long as we had sufficient distance from cottage and sufficient distance between the driveways. So that's kind of what it looks like. As you can see, the work is ending at the right of way. So that's hopefully that.
Kurt, on the eastern section, does that curb simply stop or does it continue on to the east?
That continues on to the east. This was just diagrammatic to show you what was proposed. But yeah,
So
it absolutely continues. And the
Yeah.
same thing on the other side of cottage. I think there's some new curbing over there. I can't recall off the top of my head, but
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Hey, Kurt, I'm looking at the Nickerson property on the corner of Shore and Cross Lane.
yep,
I see the 5 trees that need to be removed.
yes.
Wondering if the 2 trees that are closest to Cross Lane can be saved. It looks like there's some room in there. They are in the state right of way, but it looks like the sidewalk clears them. Is it possible to save those, or do they just need to go because of the room they need to with?
Yeah, I mean, it could be something that you look at the time of construction. Theoretically, if the contractor could work around them, I suppose they could stay. The other thing that you would need to be concerned about is you don't want them to encroach on your sidewalk. Then it becomes potentially a town liability issue. If something happens, if even things like melting snow falls off the tree onto the sidewalk and somebody slips, and so you just need to think about those things beyond the ability to construct. Could they in some way, shape, or form have a negative impact on the ability of people to use the sidewalk or on the safety of the sidewalk? If the answer is no, if you feel that there are no safety concerns, et cetera, there's nothing that says you have to take a tree out if you can find a way to make it work.
How close are the trees to the proposed sidewalk? Because we were talking with the tree commission on trees on Ferry Road, and they pointed out that a sidewalk panel is probably about 5 inches thick, and then the subsoil preparation is probably another 10. And if you go down 15 inches and you're close to the tree trunk, that tree is going to get zapped. So if the outcome is that the tree dies because of installing the sidewalk, because you destroy, half the root system, let's say, then the owner would be double angry.
I also think that you have to think about whether or not those roots are going to push up the sidewalk like they have on Ferry Road. If there's any chance of that, that's pretty tough to get around later in the game, like we're facing with Ferry Road.
If you'd like, I can share my screen. I think I'm at the right spot. Would that be helpful?
Adjacent to
Yes.
Cross Lane, yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think, so this is the area that we're talking about. We
That's right up
typically look at any disturbance within what we call the drip line of the tree. Has a very high potential to kill the tree.
Yeah, that's right up against the trunk. The 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them.
The 3 of them clearly have to go. The 3 easterly most trees clearly have to go. I'm just wondering about the 2 westerly most.
Mm.
Yeah, my recommendation would be that as long as we're not inside the drip line and that no portion of the tree is within, a couple of feet of the sidewalk, and I say that because of snow removal and you want to make sure the sun can hit the sidewalk and melt the snow, that they could stay. Sometimes with surveys like this, you get to such a scale that it's hard to accurately depict. So example, the trunk graphically shown in these diagrams, maybe it's actually not that big. So it could be the kind of thing that when they stake it out in the field, we make an assessment and the contractor will be laying out the work. So it'll be very clear as to where the sidewalk's going to go.
Mhm.
And you could look at it at that time.
Do we know what kind of trees they are?
I believe there's some sort of evergreen, I think.
There's birch on the plan.
All right, so I guess pretty hard to confuse a birch with an evergreen. So let me see if I can find a picture and we may actually be able to, bear with me. Okay, I'm gonna call up our walking tour of Shore Road that we've used in the past to see if there's a photograph of the trees.
How you doing, Frank?
Hey, doing fine. Standing in line. Me and about 300 other cars.
Or
Okay, so they do look like, I see a birch. Yeah, so okay, so they're not, I was thinking, maybe I'm thinking of something further in on the property or something. Okay, so those are not evergreen trees. They're birch trees and I'm not sure what the other ones are, but so they're not evergreens. I was wrong. Yeah, so I think
Birch
that's
have a
something that
pretty
could be.
shallow root system. The birch have a fairly shallow root system, don't they?
They do.
and aren't
Yeah.
they very sensitive?
That's my understanding. I know we've lost quite a few. on our
Yeah,
property.
I don't know that birch would survive work close by, and they may show the signs of not surviving it well after the construction is done, which means we'd probably have to take them down. So I think
Well,
we should
take a look at
in
it
the
when we get
field.
up there, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Any other questions?
You could ask the tree commission to come down and have a look at them, and a tree warden and stuff, just to get a second opinion, but
Great idea.
it's not town property. They're town trees, are their jurisdiction, but at least they could give me an idea.
So there's a view of them.
Oh.
Yeah, those are right on the sidewalk. I'm
It's
looking
the
at,
farther ones, though. There's the little short, dark ones in the back there, right?
yeah, I'm looking at maps right now. It looks like there's another little short one, very short one. And then it looks like there's a Norway maple behind, much more sizable. I'm not 100% clear as to where the sidewalk ends at that point. I guess that's something we can look at on the walk.
Yeah, good idea. We'll be out there, so we could literally take a look at it.
I mean, my concern is just it's in front of this gentleman's house, and he's already pretty irate. So if there's something that we could save, we may want to look at it.
Yeah,
If it doesn't,
great.
Yep, yep.
He was pretty irate when I spoke with him.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. I think we touched on our problems, and concerns on Hartford Avenue quite a bit, and not so much on Shore Road. So it's good that we had this discussion. We agreed we'll do some communication to everybody. And one thing Kurt had raised yesterday was the possibility of maybe doing a flyer as the project gets underway that we can just put in people's mailboxes or doors, whatever, that let them know, just remember we're underway. Within 10 weeks, this will be over, whatever time frame we put on there. If there's any questions, here's the number at town hall, that sort of thing.
Should we have a ribbon cutting ceremony?
I think we should.
Might as well.
Sure. Maybe we could do that on April 1st too. What do you think, Kurt? Or is that going to be too much for that day?
A groundbreaking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I love the idea of a ribbon cutting too. I think you should definitely do
ribbon
that.
cutting. I
Yeah,
did it
I
backwards.
love that idea.
We do a
but yeah,
groundbreaking.
but both, right? Great project. Why not? So yeah, that might be kind of fun. We could ask the contractor probably on the 5th. It might be a little early. I'm not sure if he's even going to have any machinery out there. Typically we'll have the ceremonial kind of pile of dirt, if you recall, we did on the other project. Doesn't mean we have to. We could literally have something somewhere on the project where you literally dig into the ground. That's okay. I'm almost thinking we don't necessarily need the contractor to be mobilized if we did it such that you could even do it on the piece of property by the police station, right, where you're literally digging into the ground. A lot of times they'll have a little pile of dirt because there's no way you could dig into the ground, but out here, why not?
Okay.
We could, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think it'd be good PR for the project. It's a positive thing. I have the golden shovels I'm happy to bring down.
You like that? That'd be fun. Okay. Well, we'll tentatively plan on doing that then on the 1st.
One thing I'd like
Mary
to
Jo,
mention.
you have to bring Mary Jo, you'll need to bring your pink hard hat.
I wouldn't forget it.
And I have white hard hats I can bring too, that are always good for the photo opportunity. One thing I was thinking about as we're looking at the area of Cross Lane, if you recall, we had talked about the curbing on Route 156.
Yeah.
And to save money, we did not install curbing in many areas, and in many areas we're tying the new curbing into existing curbing. Well, I'm noticing this particular location, there is no curbing. And again, to save money, we didn't add curbing. Well, because you're under budget, there's another example of it seems totally reasonable to ask the contractor to price out adding whatever it might be, 50, 60 feet of curbing at this particular location. Please give us a price. It's an enhancement to the project. Those are the kind of things that we can look at even when we're down there on April 1st, to start thinking about things that we specifically, because of the concern with budget, didn't include them, not because we didn't want to include them, but because we wanted to save money. Now that we know where we are, we could revisit some of those things.
Good idea.
Kurt, how does bituminous do on a state road with the plows and stuff?
I mean, in general, they use it all over the state of Connecticut. It tends to do fairly well. You've got decent shoulders out here. So I think it's kind of a standard, for the state of Connecticut. And I think it generally does well. Normally where you see bituminous pavement getting really wrecked is in parking lots and those kinds of things, where you've got a lot of changes in direction with the plows. It's not necessarily always intuitive where the curbing is located in the parking lot. So you've got islands and other things, whereas on a road, it's very linear. The state plow drivers are well-versed in what they do. They typically know these roads. So I think in general, it fares pretty darn well.
Great. I think that was a great suggestion. Had lots of good suggestions. And who thought we'd be in this situation? Great. Any other thoughts? Well, keep your white or pink hat on and keep thinking. Okay, Tim, do you want to talk about the communication you've put together to send to DOT?
Yeah, I drafted something, Kurt. So you're probably well versed in this, to see if this would suffice for our letter to Mr. Babowitz. Kurt Parcharna, our consulting engineer with BSC Group in Glastonbury, Connecticut, performed a thorough review of the 5 bids received by the town of Oline for its Soundview Gateway Connectivity Project and issued his letter of recommendation dated the 22nd of March, 2021, copy of the letter attached. One bid was not considered as the company is not pre-qualified by DOT. Based on Mr. Parcharna's Parcharnia, keep getting that wrong, analysis and recommendation, I respectfully request that ConnDOT concurs with his recommendation and approves the selection of Martin Laverio Contractor, I guess that's Contractor Singular, Inc.
I
As
think,
the
yeah.
lowest responsible bidder for the Soundview Gateway Connectivity Project at a total price of $260,950. If you approve our recommendation, the town will award the contract to Martin Laverio Contractor, Inc. and proceed with construction.
I think that works. Yeah, and I can actually, let me open up. I'm just going to verify.
Yeah, Tim got your letter, which also includes, other than his concurrence with the recommendation, a copy of all the bids, the date of the bid opening.
Right, that's what I was
And then
thinking, Mary Jo.
the
It would be- it would
certification.
be
The
The,
certi-
yeah, the thing we got the other day.
Yep. Then I think
Yeah,
we're
Tim,
good.
All right,
Tim,
so
I think that it's connectivity, not conductivity. It's connectivity.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay.
Connectivity,
Connectivity.
whatever.
Yeah, date of bid opening, list all bidders and bid amount. That's all in my letter.
Yeah,
Recommendation which you've made. We are awarding it to the lowest bidder.
Yep.
So we don't need to justify that we're not.
yeah,
And then contractor certification of compliance with Connecticut General Statute 3157B. Is that?
That's in his packet. So I told
That's
Michelle to get that to
excellent.
you. Yep.
that's in
Very
your
good.
letter.
I think
That's
that's in his bid packet.
Correct.
Tim.
Yep.
Tim,
Yeah.
Tim, you have to pull that from his bid packet.
The what?
That certification is in his bid packet.
Right, but if this is an attached letter, wouldn't all the contents be part of my letter now?
Yes, you have to send that, you have to make that part of your letter. But the actual copy of that certification is in his bid packet, which you have in the office. You have to pull that out of there. I told Michelle.
Well, it's more than a bullet point, you're saying? There's a separate document?
That's correct.
So essentially, Tim, there'll be two attachments to your letter. One attachment will be my letter,
Yeah,
and the second attachment will be Martin Leviero's certification of compliance that was included as part of their bid package.
all right.
And everything can be emailed to Craig Babowitz.
Yeah, we can scan those two things in and put the whole thing together. Okay.
And then at that point, Kurt, is it appropriate or should I still hold? I had drafted a letter to the people that bid and were not working with to send out and thank them. And I know I was holding to make sure that your evaluation was correct. Do you think we should wait until we hear from DOT before that goes out, or?
I think that'd be prudent, just because as part of the process, it's required that they approve. I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay. So Tim, do you plan on getting that out to DOT tonight or tomorrow?
Well, I'll have to get this other document. I haven't seen that. I just seen the reference in Kurt's letter, but not Laverio's document. It's done by the contractor himself, right?
Yes, it's
Correct.
each of the bid packets, which are sitting in Michelle's area. Have
All right.
that.
I'll take a quick look. Okay.
Okay. Well, so hopefully we'll have that okay soon. And then at that point, then once the DOT gets back to you, Tim, then you can issue that notice to, I always get those wrong. There's two notices to
Bid
award.
award.
And one is notice to, there's two notices to him. So the first one then,
Yeah.
notice to intent to award, is that the first one?
Correct.
Okay, so at that point then, Tim, you will sign that notice of intent to award.
Yeah.
And email that to Dan, who should be putting together all the other documents as we speak. Just so the committee knows, he did look at, I asked if he had looked at the contract, and he didn't think there'd be any problem with it. So he did take a look at it. So that was good news. So fingers and toes crossed.
Well, that notice of intent is after Babowitz comes back and says, okay, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that thing I showed you yesterday.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah, it's, I've got it here.
Mhm. Okay, great. Well, that's good. All right, any other project concerns? We did good. Really proud of us. Just gonna say, yay us.
One item I did want to bring up is tonight's meeting is kind of a sort of bittersweet for me. It's really our last meeting on the design phase. Our scope of services is completed. So we won't be leaving because we're on board for the construction inspection piece, which is great. Obviously, we're thrilled to do it. The design services during construction piece is still outstanding. The meeting on April 1st would be our first activity, I guess, under that scope of services. But we don't have authorization to proceed yet. So I don't want to, I'm not trying to be pushy. I just wanted to point it out.
Well,
That
do we
technically
normally,
not on board.
do we send those two acknowledged agreements once the DOT approves it, or what's the timing?
It's really up to you as the owner.
Mhm.
Tim, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
We have those two letters from BSC that we're supposed to sign saying, okay, in the 15, it's grant grant eligible, and the other one is the owner's non-eligible 15,000. And we have them, but we didn't send it back yet because, you know, we're still waiting for confirmation about everything. But so I don't know what's the protocol, whether you send it once we receive Babowitz's agreement to go ahead and the project starts to roll or not. I don't know what the timing should be. I guess that we can send it if it's understood that, you know, if for some reason he says no, then we pull back. But other than that, it's fine.
And I do have one that has already been executed. So that I've already opened up a
Right.
project on my end for that. So it's only the design services during construction that we don't have.
Is
It's
that the
totally
one?
up to, that's the
The
one that the town funds.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I guess we could send that just so long as, you know, I guess DOT is the final step for approval, I guess. So,
Yes.
yeah. All right.
Yeah, and that way I can do the paperwork on my end, get a tracking number open.
Yeah.
And then at some point, we don't have to do it tonight. We could even talk about it on the first, because those are all time and materials. I want to make sure that I'm clear on what you as the town will want from me when I send you the invoices. Obviously, for the design piece, it was really easy. It was lump sum. The invoice is about as simple as it gets. But with time and materials, I want to make sure I'm giving you whatever documentation you may want, you know, to track and and whatever you want is fine. I just want to make sure I understand, you know, what that might be. So we can always talk about that on the first.
Okay.
Right, I think that's great. And you've been very patient with us. I think your letters were from last October. So we appreciate that. And thank you for working with us.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions on that? Okay, so when that's signed, that'll be good news. Now, Eric, I'm sorry, Kurt. So this completion of this phase, then you'll be sending out your final invoice under this phase, correct?
Right, that'll probably go out probably I guess at the end of this week, early next week. Yeah.
Okay, and this is where Tim always says, take your time.
Well, we got the $800 one just very recently, so it'll be a 2,000 remainder. And I think there's a very small amount on the surveying one for the corner. whether there's any more for that you have or not, I'm not sure.
No, I believe that's I think there was only 2 invoices. The one you just got is the last one on that.
No, well, I got 800 on the 40,000. So there's 2,000 remaining. The surveying one was 1,800, and I think there is a small balance left on that. If you have any more to do on it, or whether you're done on it.
Yeah, well, it's definitely done. I think for the surveying one, that's probably the second invoice. But I think that's the last one on that, I think. And
There
I'll
hasn't
just
been one in a while. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we pulled the pins, and so it was 1,800 was the total.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And just so the committee knows, I do not get a copy of these, so I haven't shared them with you. So I had hoped to. Any other questions on money? Okay. Then if there aren't any more comments, we can go on to approving our meeting minutes of March 9th.
Well, I just say that I was looking back, and I'm not sure that the Board of Finance approved the town side of it for the non-eligible. So I'll speak with Nicole just to confirm, but we may, now that we're getting closer on all the details, we could probably do that, because I have a feeling we talked to the Board of Finance in October, but since there was still some pending items, we didn't actually get them to do anything. One question, Kurt, if up on 156, do you contemplate that there'd be any ineligible expenditures we'd need to make, or would everything be grant eligible?
Do you mean if we added items to the project?
Well, let's just take the project itself. I just want to make sure that as we try to come up with our final number for the Board of Finance, that the town would need to come up with that once we set that, we don't get something from 156 that would be like a $3,000 item that it's not eligible for some reason for grant funding.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Specific to the grant, you had mentioned, I think it was $80-something thousand we have available. My recommendation would be that if there's any expenditure that will utilize or is proposed to utilize the grant, that we get concurrence from Craig Babowitz, just to make sure. Now, as an example, if we I use the example of curbing at Cross Lane, clearly that is something that would be covered. But if there were things such as, well, as an example, the gateway sign, I'm not so sure that the grant would cover that, right? So that's something you would absolutely want to check with Craig on. So my recommendation.
Isn't that something DOT makes up in Newington or somewhere in that sign shop they have? Is it one of those large metal signs that has the state fabricates it?
No, you're talking about the construction sign. I thought that the contractor are you talking about the sign where it says who the project is under, what it was funded?
It's a DOT thing.
Yeah, but the contractor gets the sign. We're talking about the actual visual sign for Soundview,
more
right?
decorative.
Yeah, the more decorative one. But
Okay, yeah.
Tim, normally what we do is we take the quote that we get from BSC and we add 10 or 20% for any unplanned incidentals that might come up. Can't we just do that when we go to the Board of Finance?
We have that. Let's see, in the numbers for the Board of Finance.
We should be good.
We have 40,000 for contingency, but in the bid, and then in the town side, we have 5,000, but that's still a little unclear yet what all the elements need to be for the town one. So I think.
I didn't think it was unclear. I thought it was clear. I thought it was crystal clear what we were supposed to be asking the Board of Finance for. I mean,
Well-
I thought that was done. And, you know, I mean, Kurt gave us a quote, what it's going to cost us. And
Right, but
I
we-
thought we agreed that we were going to go to the Board of Finance and get it approved.
Yeah, we talked
I
to
mean,
them. and
this is like the 11th hour. Kurt
Yep.
shouldn't be waiting for this.
But we, you know, that was October and here's February, so we didn't know what the bids would come out and all that sort of thing.
It
So
had
we-
nothing to do with the bids.
Hmm?
Had nothing to do with the bids. It has everything to do with the portion of the project that the town is paying for, which has to be approved by the Board of Finance.
Right.
I expected it would already be done. And if you're worried about other expenses, we could go right up to the 19,000 that they can approve, or 20,000, just under 20,000, and we would be covered. But the Board of Finance doesn't really like to do that. They like actual numbers. We could say to them, add
We
2,000.
have numbers, we showed that to them. And so I think this is the time when we need to
Then
get this.
why
locked
isn't
in.
it approved? Why isn't it approved? It should have been approved by now. Just get there and ask them before they quit with the budgeting thing, and they're not even meeting.
Well, it would be an appropriation for this fiscal year. It's not for next year.
I understand, but they're meeting now. Get it on their agenda and get it approved. Excuse me, everyone else, but this is frustrating to me because this should have been done.
Well,
And
what?
if this holds the project up, it's
No, it's not
not
gonna hold the
right.
project up. They've already been briefed on it. It's to fill in the blanks and, you
We're
know,
gonna meet on April 1st. Kurt can't go there and meet if he doesn't have the authorization to go there and meet.
yeah.
He needs that authorization. That's less than a week away.
Mhm.
So
It'll
just
get done.
go to the Board of Finance and get it done.
Well, all right. I just want to make sure that there were no issues that might come along with 156 because we're doing a whole street. So if that is not an issue, I mean, whatever is approved will be grant eligible, as I understand what's coming through.
No, I think, Tim, what you need to do is go to the Board of Finance to get that 15,000 approved. If you're concerned about other things coming up that may be an expense of the town, then talk to the Board of Finance and get them to approve up to 19,000. They can't go any higher than that anyway.
Yeah,
So,
20.
yeah, so just either go the 15 or right under the 20.
Well, we know that the Easy Mart survey is not eligible, so that's another one. And then we're going to take care of legal other ways.
Can I just remind this group that we are getting $400,000. We are getting an assets out of this deal. If this town can support, 60,000 of our town money and we're getting 400,000, there's something wrong. I mean, really, that's crazy. So, I mean, Bonnie is absolutely correct. We should go to the 19,000 because, as you know, Kurt's bid is time and materials. If there is a need to go over the 15, that will give us enough. And then Tim, as you say, you've talked, I've heard you talk, I've listened to the meetings, I haven't been in part of it. I've heard you brief the Board of Finance. So as you say, they should be well informed. So it should be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on, can I get approval of our minutes from March 9th?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Eric.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Frank. Any comments? Questions? Changes? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. Our next meeting will be April 1st, apparently, and I'll send everything out. Then, of course, the start will be April 5th, but April 1st will be our construction meeting, and that'll be a special meeting. Our next regular meeting is April 6th. And that maybe that's good. We'll have some feedback from how things are going. But given that we got a lot going on for the next 2 weeks, I'll do my best to keep you guys appraised of anything that pops up. And hopefully, fingers and toes crossed, Tim will hear from DOT very soon. If there aren't any more comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Second.
Second? Thank you, Eric. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Thank you all. A special thanks to
Thank
Kurt
you.
for all your efforts.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Kurt.
all.
Yeah.
It's been great working with you. Looking forward to
Thank
the next phase.
Very good.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.